Quiet Place Day One. So, like we said before, written and directed by Michael Sarnowski, who did the incredible movie Pig with Nicolas Cage, all about a guy and his truffle pig, and there's sort of like a little sort of like crime aspect. Like it's oh my god, Pig is fucking fantastic. Love Michael Sarnowski. He also brought a lot of his creative team from Pig to this. His cinematographer Pat Scola, the composer Alexis Gropsas. So he's got the Pig team working on this. The story was he and John Krasinski came up with the story, but then he wrote the script. He said he was inspired look-wise by Children of Men. So all of these details sounded pretty interesting to me going in. I was excited. I'm obviously no fan of Krasinski. I don't really have an allegiance to this franchise in any way. But all of that stuff made it exciting for me going into the movie. I was excited to see what it was going to be. And I love Sarnowski getting a big swing, a big studio budget and a big swing. A couple things on A Quiet Place Day One. The performances in the movie are very good. Lupita Nyong'o as a terminally ill woman who comes into New York for a sort of little field trip from the hospice that she's at, and then while she's in New York is when it gets attacked by these alien bugs and they start killing everybody, but they only respond to sound. You also have Alex Wolff from Hereditary is in this for a little bit. Djimon Hounsou's in it. Joseph Quinn, who is best known from Stranger Things, is in it. Everybody gives a very good performance. It's a very well acted, very well performed movie. It was fine. I had a funnish time. I had some major issues with this movie, though, that point to some of my bigger issues with where the summer blockbuster is at and where the monster movie is at. The thing that shocked me the most is that the movie is the thing that I was really looking forward to. It did not have. It's not a suspenseful movie. And I was kind of shocked at the lack of like real suspense and like real sort of like layered set pieces. If you think about how like, and look, this is a high bar, but if you think of how like Spielberg structures like his set pieces in Jurassic Park, where it's just like heightening to the point of like, they're never going to get out of this. There's no way they get out of this. They're definitely dead. There's no way they get out of this. And he's just heightening the suspense to impossible heights and then finding a credible escape route that you did not see coming. This is really the opposite of this. Like I never felt like the characters were in like real danger. Like the main characters were ever like in like real danger. There are like two set pieces. There's one in like a sewer that was in a flooded subway. There's one on like a sort of abandoned construction site that were like the beginnings of a suspenseful set piece. But then the characters kind of get out of the situation fairly easily. And there's not that like 2, 3, 4 beats of like heightening. There's not that sense of like there's no way out of this. There's not that sense of oh my god, and your heart's beating out of your chest. Like he just doesn't like layer in suspense, and I feel like maybe that's just not Sarnowski's strength as a director or his inclination. It almost felt like he didn't know to do it or something. It was just because there's scenes where it could have happened, but he just was in a rush to get the scene over with, it felt like. And so you don't have that like heart pounding in your chest thing, which I thought was supposed to be one of the trademarks of these movies, and I think is more of a trademark of the first two. I do think not to give Krasinski a compliment, but I do think I do think the previous two have more of that like heart-pounding suspense. I know there's the famous scene where Emily Blunt's giving birth in the bathtub and trying not to make any noise. You didn't get that. The scenes were sort of in a rush to be over with, and so there was really like a lack of actual suspense or scares in this movie. There was also, and I usually take the opposite position on this, where I'm like, I don't need all the lore. I want like a tight, efficient story. I like standalone stuff. But I actually felt like in this case, because this movie plays out in real time, no one knows what's happening or why it's happening. The aliens just appear and you kind of experience it. Much like in Spielberg's War of the Worlds, you experience it as it would really happen in real life. But unlike Spielberg's War of the Worlds, because there wasn't a lot of like real suspense or real like fear or anything in this movie, I was actually like, I think I would have liked some lore or some like shadowy government characters or like something that like could flesh out this movie or make it a little more fun and interesting, because my this all leads to my main problem with Quiet Place Day One, and my bigger issue with where the summer blockbusters at and where like monster movies are at, is that this movie's two main tones was, it was so fucking dour, and I get that he wanted to make it like Children of Men, but man, that's a high bar, and when you're filming most of the movie on a studio backlot, it's not going to look like Children of Men, and it didn't look like Children of Men, and
No.
instead it just felt so fucking dour, and then also it felt really like emotionally exploitative and kind of sentimental and cheesy. I felt like all the stuff around
Yeah.
Lupita's character having having terminal cancer, it's not that that could not have worked in theory, and I actually like the idea of, for this prequel, like for a one-off prequel, I do think it was fun to have like the main character be someone who's going to die anyway, and it creates like an interesting sort of dilemma of like, why are you fighting to survive, and like it's just because it's your instinctual thing, but like to what extent do you fight to survive, and like, so I thought that that was potentially interesting, but the problem is, and this is where like the fact that Krasinski had a hand in the story, maybe not the screenplay, but the story, this felt very Krasinski to me, where like you get a flood of the terminal cancer stuff in the first 5 minutes, and it just really felt like cheating. It felt emotionally exploitative. It's like, we don't even know who this character is yet, and you're trying to cheat to get us to care about the character, because there is a flood of like, this character is dying from cancer in the first 5 minutes, and then that like puppet show they go to is straight, to quote the trailer for If, straight from the imagination of John Krasinski. So there is like a lot of emotional exploitative stuff going on the first 5 minutes that I didn't like. Whereas like later on in the movie, I was like, oh, I kind of get what they're doing with Lupita, and that really could have worked and been interesting if they just hadn't hit you over the head with it. It's like, just be patient. Like find a point where this can pay off, as opposed to trying to cash that check in the first 5 minutes. So the audience is like forced to be on the side of the character. It just felt very exploitative. The movie has no real sense of humor. It like half of it felt like a dumbed down version of Threads, that incredible movie about the nuclear bombing of Sheffield. Like half of it was just so dour and like destroyed city and people covered in dust and bodies everywhere. And then the other half felt like a Hallmark movie and its kind of cheesiness, and like, so it was just like tonally, I didn't like it. And the big thing that I was missing was just a fucking, like, where's the summer blockbuster? This is a monster movie coming out the first week of July. Like, where's Independence Day? Where's Jurassic Park? Where's Men in Black? Where are these movies? Do they not make them anymore? And I know we were talking on our summer blockbusters episode about The Dark Knight and how fundamental of a summer blockbuster that was. And I do, and we've talked a lot about Spielberg and Nolan, and like, I respect these guys. They're obviously masters of their craft. But one of the things I just can't, like, and I don't blame them for this, but to me, Spielberg and Nolan are both guys who are the best of the best. You don't get better than them at what they do, but they both unleashed some like not great trends in the history of movies, and they inspired a lot of imitators who can't do what they do. And I really do feel like The Dark Knight kind of killed the mood of the summer blockbuster, because everyone now is trying to do this hybrid of like an indie movie and a summer blockbuster, and we get these just in between dour fucking movies like Quiet Place Day One, where it's like, man, this is a monster movie in July. Why does it fucking look and feel like this? What is the constant like who's like, why do they feel like they have to make it look like this? Like, can't we have fun with this fucking movie? And like, it would be one thing if like if there was like 3 other movies that were doing that, and then A Quiet Place Day One could sort of find a different lane. But it's like, man, you're the summer monster movie. Like, you almost have a responsibility to not be like this. You have a responsibility to be sort of bigger and even a little campy and fun, and like, it's just, I just feel like there is a now a missing hole that we're never going to fill again for like fun big action summer blockbusters
like Horizon.
Like, sure, because everyone wants to make The Dark Knight, everyone wants to do their hybrid of like an indie and a studio movie, and it was just like, and when it works it's great, but this one did not work for me. It was like a bummer. It also has that specific brand of like cloying sentimentality that comes from two white guys writing a black female character. Like there was a lot of like when they go to the Harlem Jazz Club where her dad used to play, and
Rough.
it's like, all right, guys, like did the dad from Get Out write this script? Like it's like there's moments like that where I was like, oh god, that's like it's like cringy. So I don't know. It was like I really like I loved Pig. I did not like this movie. I do if I can. Joe, tell me what you thought about Quiet Place Day One. I have one last thing to say about Krasinski on this, but
Yeah.
I like let's keep talking about the movie for a second. What did you think about Quiet Place Day One?
Well, for starters, John Krasinski and Michael Bay, via his Platinum Dunes production company, are our new horror overlords.
Oh fuck!
They have crafted the most successful franchise of modern horror. I know that The Conjuring, James Wan's The Conjuring universe has spawned off, but now we are in the dribs and the drabs, The Nun 2 and this and that. I know Insidious is super popular, but I feel like we're past Insidious's prime now as we get into Annabelle 12. Unfortunately or fortunately, John Krasinski and Michael Bay have the surest thing in horror. A Quiet Place made $50 million. Big surprise. Opening weekend. Quiet Place 2 during COVID made $50 million. It was like the first movie back for a lot of people. They came out to see fucking Quiet Place Part 2. And now this, A Quiet Place Day 1, a spin-off, Brett's right, featuring a woman, which we all thought was moot because of one freaking movie, Furioso, which is obviously some sort of insane outlier. I don't know what to say about Furioso. But here we have it, led by Lupita, the world's greatest actor who never gets in any good movies. I'll talk about in a second. And then this one makes $50 million too. And then Quiet Place Part 3 is going to come out. I have a feeling it's going to make around $50 million opening weekend.
I think more. I think it'll be I think if the spinoff prequel made 56,
yeah,
because 2 came out during COVID, you can't like really count that.
The spinoff prequel made 50. Right, you're right, bro.
Part 3 is gonna be 60 plus.
Now, that's just financial facts. People dig the movie because it has because A Quiet Place 1 is really good, and John Krasinski unfortunately nailed it. I'm not saying it's my favorite horror movie. I'm not saying it's even a great horror movie, but it certainly is scary and it certainly is serviceable. And those Emily Blunt having a baby scenes really are scary and good. And I like them very much. A Quiet Place Day 2 or whatever, Part 2, also totally serviceable, totally good. People like it a little bit more than Quiet Place 1. I like Quiet Place 1 a little bit more, but who cares? It's all pretty good stuff, whatever. And then Quiet Place Day 1, again, totally serviceable, fair, totally good and fine. You have to be quiet or the aliens are going to get you. It's good. It's actually a strong horror premise. I don't think, though, that this one was as good as the other two. I don't think it was bad. I just think it was good. This is a good horror series that really really defines modern cinema, unfortunately, which is a totally serviceable, not entirely ambitious, completely fine, over and over again, replicable piece of horror that's going to make $50 million in the opening weekend. It's impressive. They reboot fucking Friday the 13th. They reboot Freddy. They reboot everything under the sun. Conjuring, Insidious, this, that. But Quiet Place, they're gonna crank these out. We're gonna get 3 more of these because Michael Bay and John Krasinski did the damn thing. Now, this specific movie, I agree with Brett. I liked that it focused on Lupita's character. I liked that she was gonna die by the end. I like the way that they handled having to do a stupid prequel to Quiet Place.
Really quickly, just a simple change. Like, wouldn't it have been so much more effective to like find out later in the movie that she's dying of cancer? Like front loading it as a plot point was just so like, ugh.
Think about in Lucky Marrow, in Lucky Mary when it really takes us like 40 minutes before we kind
Yep.
of understand
Yep.
all of the
Yep.
amazing things
Yep.
going on.
Yep.
But that doesn't take away from any of the 40 minutes, by the way. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Exactly.
This is a dumb movie.
Knowing how to like
It's a
distribute
simple
plot
movie.
points is an art
Mhm.
that like so many of these filmmakers have like forgotten in this,
Yeah.
and it might be in this rush to like keep like to like capture, like who knows what kind of shitty notes they're getting from the studios. You got to win the first 5 minutes, or we need to
Whatever
we need the
nonsense.
shots
But
for
Brett,
the Comic-Con trailer.
that's why this franchise is starting to bother me. Because it's so perfect for money. And then Brett,
Fucking Krasinski.
what really broke my heart, or what lost me officially for this one, which I think is a fine movie, 3 stars, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good. It had a couple jumps and it's like fun and like, you know, I go with your cousin and have a laugh and then go get pizza afterwards, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of this movie was so Joseph Quinn, Lupita sacrifices herself and Joseph Quinn escapes to the boat with Digimon Hansu's on it, and like and there's so much like hope inherent in the sort of ending, and it's sort of uplifting. And we had just rewatched Steven Spielberg's 2005 War of the Worlds, which is the same plot as this movie.
I kept thinking about how
aliens land,
yeah,
and you just have to fucking deal with it, right? That's what that movie's about.
And Joe, I will say, I had written off War of the Worlds. I just, I thought it was like lower tier Spielberg. Joe had been telling me how slept on it was. I watched it recently. It's so good. That Spielberg War of the Worlds is so good, and like it's a perfect side by side comparison to this movie in terms of like how to do it right and how to do it wrong.
Right, because they're the same movie, just 2 different ways to do it.
Yeah,
and in War of the Worlds, like even at the end of War of the Worlds, the aliens die, which at the end of Quiet Place Day 1, they don't. But the end of War of the Worlds feels so much darker and sadder.
Yeah.
Than the end of A Quiet Place Day 1. And I just was like, that's the Krasinskiization of horror, where at the end of Quiet Place Day 1, I'm supposed to feel like happy or something. At the end of a horror movie, there's a last final scare. You know what I mean?
Yep.
She gets dragged to hell, or for the last time, they go boo, and then it cuts to the credit. At the end of a Krasinski horror movie, it's like very nice and happy, and it's just so stupid. I was like, fuck this. I don't know.
Horror isn't so scary.
I know. Here's my last thing to say.
Yeah.
What happened with Lupita Nyong'o? Why is she so viciously underutilized?
Thank you.
In Hollywood? It's actually suspicious. Go look at her IMDb, everybody, or Letterboxd. Look at her career. Besides Us, like she hasn't done a non-franchise movie since like 2016. And I'm paraphrasing her career, but essentially that's like the long and the short of it. Emma Stone gets to have these incredible roles. Who cares what I think of the movies? The roles that Emma gets in her Yorgos films are these like big, bold, brash, crazy, sexual, beautiful, funny, intelligent, scary, mean characters. They're great. And then she gets to go do The Curse with Safdie and Fielder. And then she gets to go do, think about Emma Stone's amazing career and all the different twists and turns Emma Stone, who's an amazing actor, gets to do and gets to make. And then her contemporary, Lupita, who's every bit as talented, it has the weirdest resume ever. It doesn't make any sense. She was electric in Us.
She's
and then they put her. But then Us yielded her nothing. I mean, you can say, oh, Joe, she was in Star Wars. She played a fucking alien in Star Wars.
It's so weird that
wasn't
Us,
even
like,
a person.
I know, because Us gave her a path to do horror, to do genre. It's like the easiest. It's the easiest.
Because I think she could do anything.
Right.
She's an Academy Award winner.
It's just like there's no excuse.
Much dynamic range.
Yeah.
It's fucking shocking. And then I just don't understand. I mean, she is in the top tier of her class of actor or of actress specifically, and she is the shittiest career of them all. And I'm watching her in Quiet Place Day 1, and she's doing great. And Joseph Quinn, who apparently he's totally solid at acting as well.
Fine.
I thought he was
good.
I thought he was good until they made him do the magic show, but that wasn't his fault.
Oh, it's not his fault. That was from the imagination of John Krasinski.
Yeah, exactly. But Brett, I just like
Yeah, it sucks.
5 alarm fire,
Sucks.
or like people need to we need to do like a trial of Hollywood or something. But
Yeah.
I need to understand. She, all her movies make money. I don't understand. I don't
And
understand.
even now, like
What is
even
the holdup
and
here?
the thing is, like, even now, because she's the best part of the movie by far. She's the best thing in the movie.
She's
But you
Lupita
can
Nyong'o.
already
She's the best part of.
you can already tell, like, this is not the success of this movie is not like they're not like Krasinski's gonna get credit for it. This director will be able to make more.
Right.
Like
No one's like Lupita opened it big.
Yeah, the success is not like immediately. Like she should be the first point that the success trickles down to, but she's gonna be like third, fourth, fifth down the like trickle down ladder of who gets credit for the success of this movie. Whereas the headline should be Lupita Nyong'o led movie is the biggest movie of the week and going to be one of the biggest movies of the summer. But that's not going to be the narrative. And this brings me to my point,
Not at all.
my latest point that I want to bring up about John Krasinski, because I've talked about how he's a simp for the CIA, how he profited off of COVID with his Some Good News bullshit, how he made the worst movie I've ever seen, which I still stand by, even after watching Horizon. If is still I think the worst movie I've ever seen.
Brother.
I'd like to add to Krasinski's list of crimes that John Krasinski is the Elon Musk of Hollywood creatives. And I put quotation marks around creatives because this is a guy who takes credit for other people's inventions and then associates himself with it for long enough that you think he's the one that invented it. A Quiet Place was written by two guys, Scott Beck and Brian Woods, based on an idea they came up with in college. This whole thing is their idea. These guys then went on to make the movie last year, 65, with Adam Driver, which I thought was a lot of fun. I really like 65. Adam Driver is like a spaceman. Planet of the Apes thing goes back to ancient planet Earth, has to fight dinosaurs right before the asteroid hits the Earth and kills all the dinosaurs. It's a lot of fun. It is a little like, it's the same thing I talked about where it's like a little too dour. It could have been a little campier. Listen to the plot I just said. I don't know why it's dour, but it's fun. I had fun. There's some fun scares in, some fun dinosaur stuff in it. I think it's on Netflix. You can watch it. 65. It's a lot of fun. But so these guys came up with the whole idea for The Quiet Place. They wrote the first script. They wanted Emily Blunt to be in it. It gets over to John Krasinski because of Emily Blunt's interest in the project. He wants to he not only wants to be in it, he wants to punch up the script and direct it. And he really gets Emily, obviously they're married, he gets her to like vouch for him and be on his side because he had a pretty bad career as a director up until this point. He made that terrible David Foster Wallace adaptation, Brief Interviews with Hideous Men. He co-wrote the script for that frickin' Matt Damon movie Promised Land, which was really bad. So he was like, Krasinski was like cashed out as a creative, as like a writer director. But he like leverages his relationship with Emily Blunt to get into the running for Quiet Place. And Quiet Place was like not a big budget, it wasn't like, so it was a small enough movie that like that they gave him a chance on it. So he makes the first one, obviously a big hit. The sequel, these guys who came up with the whole thing are not invited back for the sequel. They came out with a very diplomatic statement about it, about how they would rather create original ideas and not be part of franchises, which is like a trend you're going to see here is people making diplomatic statements about the making of these Quiet Place movies, where they're clearly not trying to piss off, Krasinski and the studios because they still want to work. But Joe, you and I have been, maybe not at this level, but you and I have been in on enough contract stuff where it's like, I can read between the lines of this statement they came out with. Like they're pissed. They got kicked out of their own movie, and they're not happy about it. So Krasinski like takes over this franchise, starting with the second one. This idea that he did not come up with. So by the time of the third one, and I'm not saying that he did not do a good job directing the first one. Like it's like, but the point is like this was not his fucking idea. This was somebody else's idea that he wormed his way into. And by the time you get to this one, Quiet Place Day One, I read some interviews with the director, and Krasinski presented it to him like this. He said, "Here's my world. What's the story you want to tell in this world?" This is what he's saying. He did not come up with A Quiet Place. But by the time you get to this one, it's his world all of a sudden. And like nobody seems really like pissed about this. Everyone has nice things to say about Krasinski, but also like, of course they do. He's fucking taking over Hollywood and they want to keep working. The reason this pisses me off so bad is because when the trailer for If came out, and we've been referencing it and everyone made fun of it, but when If came out, it was marketed as from the imagination of John Krasinski. And everybody was like, how are we already at like From the Imagination of John Krasinski? Don't you have to make like 5 Spielberg movies before they do From the Imagination of? And the thing was, the way we got
These are Tim Burton.
the way we got to From the Imagination of John Krasinski is through A Quiet Place. Not because of his adaptation of Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, not because he co-wrote Promised Land, and not because of those two. It's because of A Quiet Place that we get From the Imagination of John Krasinski. But the funny part about that is A Quiet Place did not come from his imagination. It was not his idea. It was somebody else's idea. And when we do get From the Imagination of John Krasinski, like If, it's fucking terrible. It's fucking terrible. So he hijacked these two guys' idea, made himself the face of the franchise, and then slowly over the course of 3 movies has made it seem like he is the creative force, like the sole creative force of A Quiet Place, to the point that he gets From the Imagination of John Krasinski on his next movie, so that he's a From the Imagination of guy. And I know that's like laughable to us, but like that brand travels. That brand has currency when you're a From the Imagination of guy, but he got there through these completely fraudulent means by taking credit for somebody else's invention. He is the Elon Musk of the movie industry. He comes in, snatches up someone else's idea, and then convinces you over time that he's the one that came up with it and is responsible for it. Fucking fraud. Add it to the list. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter because this movie made $55 million and part 3 is already in production, but add it to the list. It's going to catch up to you eventually, Krasinski. And I can't wait to wipe that fucking smug grin off your face and slap that Boston Red Sox hat off you. He doesn't even wear like the normal Boston Red Sox hat. He wears like the all black one. It's like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? It's like his love of the CIA, his love of the Boston Red Sox, his
bad guy.
The biz sucks. This guy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This guy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And he's gonna take credit for Lupita Nyong'o carrying this movie. And the thing is, he doesn't even have to like lift. He's just gonna it's like passive income, baby. It's like passive credit. He's just gonna let it roll in. Carson, clip it. I'm gonna have all the simps come after me, all the Krasinski simps, and tell me how he's a good guy and everybody said good things about him. You know, people lie to you in the press, like when they're giving like interviews, like they have to like they want to work in Hollywood. They can't say shit about people. They can't say bad shit about John Krasinski.
Great.
The thing is, he probably is like nice enough in person, but
it's at work.
It's a nice guy who's like never, and like I'm sure sees himself as like a hero. It's like these passive crimes that kill me. These crimes of omission, because maybe like behind the scenes. Because the other thing too is, this is it. Honestly, I was debating going down this road, and then I'll tell you the detail that really sent me down this road. Those 2 writers. Guess what they did not get on? Not only were they not involved in the creative of part 2, guess what they did not get in part 2?
The writing credit.
They didn't get writer credits. They did not get fucking producer credits. You can't even throw these guys a fucking producer credit. They came up with the whole thing. They're think about it, Joe. This guy was like cooked. Like,
Brett, the one thing you haven't mentioned though.
Yes, please.
Is that he was Jim in The Office.
Yeah, true.
And I just want to throw that out there because like that means more to like most people in this country more than like many. That's like as important a thing to these people as anything. Jim from The Office is like a massive deal. And you know how The Office has like this afterlife where it's Gen Z's favorite show. Just like we can't sleep on the fact that Krasinski charmed America during The Office, and it's still.
But Jenna Fisher's not directing. Jenna Fisher's not directing Godzilla vs. Kong. He didn't just want to. He could have got roles forever, whatever, off of all the goodwill of The Office. But this guy wanted to be Barry Levinson. He wanted to be fucking Spielberg. Like that's the trajectory he wants to be on. He wants to be like big time fucking power player, writer, director, creator. And the thing is, he was cooked. Brief interviews with Hideous Man and Promised Land. Anybody remember those movies or saw them? I actually watched. I watched both of them. Blunt. Still, but that was
That's
the way. But that
powerful.
was the way. But then he married Emily Blunt, and then basically co-opted these guys' script, made it his own.
Yeah.
Took credit for it, if not
That happens.
explicitly over time. It sucks though. It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It sucks. He
Yeah.
plays the game dirty. I mean, that's why he
No,
is
no,
where he is.
absolutely.
But he plays the
Absolutely.
game fucking dirty. He's walking up to the screenwriter of Quiet Place Day One, saying, "Here's my world. What kind of story do you want to tell in my world?" Fuck off.
Weird thing to say. Like,
That's why
even
I'm
if
glad.
That's how he felt.
I know.
It's a weird way to put it.
Just lame,
But, yeah, he's a
bad
weird
guy.
guy. He strikes me as a weird guy.
That's why I'm glad we got even if it's going to end up being profitable, and it feels like it probably will. It's still making money. I'm glad we got I'm glad we got just like actually from the imagination of John Krasinski, so everyone can see what that is like. Go back and listen to my review of if you want. It's on the YouTube, clipped out. Spoiler alert: I didn't like it. In fact, I think it's the worst movie I've ever seen. But I am glad that we have if as an artifact of like actually from the imagination of John Krasinski, what that looks like.